The sky above the abyssal ancient tomb suddenly darkened. A surge of pitch-black demonic energy rose from deep underground like a tidal wave, turning the entire space cold and suffocating. The martial artists exploring the ruins instantly stopped in their tracks, their eyes filled with fear as they stared toward the center of the abyss. Amid the thick shroud of demonic mist, a figure slowly stepped forward. His eyes were as deep as an endless abyss, and the cold smile on his lips sent chills down everyone's spine. He called himself Demon Lord Xuanye, an ancient being who was supposed to have been sealed away thousands of years ago. Standing before him was Lin Tian, a young prodigy who had just entered the abyssal ancient tomb. But Xuanye did not look at him as an opponent. He looked at him as if he were something that already belonged to him. This body is truly perfect. Xuanye's voice echoed in a low tone filled with undisguised greed. He declared that Lin Tian's body was the final piece he needed to fully revive. Once he seized it, every seal that had ever imprisoned him would become meaningless. But what sent a chill down Lin Tian's spine was not the threat itself. It was the terrifying truth behind it. Xuanye was merely an incarnation of an ancient supreme demon. And if he were to truly return to life, the gate to a catastrophe capable of devouring the entire continent would finally open. The moment Demon Lord Xuanye finished speaking, the space inside the abyssal ancient tomb seemed to freeze. Demonic energy churned violently around him, strands of black mist twisting through the air like venomous serpents waiting for the perfect moment to devour their prey. Lin Tian did not step back, but deep down he already understood just how dangerous the being before him truly was. From Xuanye's words, a terrifying truth gradually began to reveal itself. Long ago, when the great powers tried to destroy an ancient supreme demon, they discovered that they could not kill him. Instead, they were forced to split his soul and power into multiple incarnations, sealing them away in hidden locations across the continent. Xuanye was one of those incarnations. But now the seals seemed to be slowly weakening. Xuanye did not merely want to break free. He intended to retrieve all of his incarnations, merging their power to return to the complete form of the ancient demon he once was. And to accomplish that, he needed a body strong enough to contain his overwhelming demonic power. His gaze locked onto Lin Tian, like that of a predator that had already chosen its final prey. "Do you know why I've been waiting here?" he asked, his voice lowering. "Because your body is the key that will allow me to break every seal." At that moment, Lin Tian realized that this encounter was no coincidence. This was a trap that had been prepared long ago. The moment Xuanye finished speaking, the demonic energy around him erupted violently like a black storm swallowing the entire abyssal ancient tomb. Martial artists standing nearby began to tremble, their eyes slowly turning pitch black. In the blink of an eye, the demonic aura invaded their bodies, turning them into mindless puppets. Lin Tian knew that if he continued standing here alone, he would certainly be surrounded and killed. Yet instead of panicking, his gaze grew colder than ever. Suddenly an ancient monument appeared before him, the Divine Realm Stele. The space around the stele trembled and two figures stepped out from within it. The first was Qi Hao, a sword cultivator renowned for sword energy as sharp and fierce as lightning. The other was He Feng, a master of the fist, whose raw strength was powerful enough to crush mountains with his bare hands. The moment they appeared, both of them immediately sensed the terrifying atmosphere within the abyss. They glanced across the battlefield where martial artists were gradually being corrupted by demonic energy, and then their eyes locked onto Xuanye. "Looks like you've stirred up some serious trouble again," Qi Hao said with a faint smile. Lin Tian didn't respond. He simply clenched his fists. Because he understood very clearly. The battle before them was not just about survival. It was the first battle in a journey to stop an ancient supreme demon from awakening. The battle within the abyssal ancient tomb quickly descended into chaos. Qi Hao's sword energy tore through the shroud of demonic mist, each radiant strike flashing like lightning as it cut down the martial artists who had already been corrupted. On the other side, He Feng unleashed fists as heavy as warhammers, every blow shaking the ground beneath their feet. Yet no matter how fiercely they fought, the demonic energy continued to spread. Standing at the center of the battlefield, Xuanye merely watched in silence, a cold smile curling at the corner of his lips. "Do you really think you can stop me?" At that very moment he raised his hand. A dense surge of black energy shot straight toward Lin Tian like an invisible spear. Before anyone could react, the demonic energy had pierced directly into Lin Tian's body. "This is bad," He Feng roared. Everyone knew exactly what that meant. Once someone was overtaken by demonic energy, their consciousness would be devoured, turning them into nothing more than a puppet of the demon race. For a brief moment, Lin Tian's eyes darkened, and black demonic markings began spreading along his arm. Xuanye burst into laughter. "See, that body of yours was always meant to belong to me." But just as he believed everything was over, Lin Tian slowly raised his head. The demonic energy was still present in his eyes, yet his consciousness had not disappeared. In fact, he had begun controlling the corrupted power surging within his own body. The smile on Xuanye's face vanished instantly. The moment Lin Tian managed to remain standing after the demonic energy invaded his body, the entire battlefield seemed to pause for a heartbeat. Even Xuanye was briefly stunned. He could not understand how a human could still maintain their consciousness after demonic energy had already seeped deep into the soul. But that moment of surprise did not last long. Xuanye's gaze gradually turned colder as if he had just realized he was facing a genuine threat. So, you're far more interesting than I thought. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand once again. This time, the demonic energy was no longer focused solely on Lin Tian. Instead, it erupted throughout the entire abyssal ancient tomb. The martial artists who had only been partially corrupted by the demonic aura suddenly screamed in agony. Their bodies twisted violently, bones cracking and breaking as they transformed into grotesque creatures with claws and blazing red eyes. In just a few minutes, the battlefield had turned into a sea of demonic monsters. No matter how powerful Qi Hao and He Feng were, they began to be forced back step by step. Their sword energy and crushing fists continued to repel the monsters, but there were simply too many of them. At the center of the abyss, Xuanye stood silently within the raging storm of demonic energy, his voice echoing with murderous intent. If I can't seize your body immediately, then I'll turn this entire place into hell, and slowly crush all of you. Lin Tian looked across the chaotic battlefield, and deep down he realized something clearly. This battle was slipping out of control. Demonic energy flooded the entire abyssal ancient tomb, making the already dark sky feel even heavier as if it were about to collapse. Hundreds of corrupted creatures roared as they charged forward, wave after wave, like a black tide swallowing the battlefield. Qi Hao swung his sword until his arm began to tremble. His razor-sharp sword energy sliced through one monster after another, but within moments, new shadows surged forward from behind. On the other side, He Feng was no better off. His punches still struck with the force of thunder, yet his body had begun to stagger from exhaustion. There are too many of them, He Feng roared. Even Lin Tian, despite being able to control the demonic energy within his body, could clearly feel his strength slowly being worn down. Xuanye's demonic aura was not only attacking from the outside, it was also pressing relentlessly against his mind, like an endless black tide. High above, Xuanye looked down at the chaotic battlefield, his gaze cold as if he were simply enjoying a piece of entertainment. Do you understand now? His voice echoed throughout the abyss. No matter how much you struggle, you cannot change the outcome. The monsters continued to close in surrounding the three of them, and forcing them step by step toward the center of the battlefield. There was no path of retreat. No reinforcements coming. In that moment, Lin Tian suddenly realized a chilling truth. If this battle continued the way it was, not only he but Qi Hao and He Feng would die here as well. Surrounded by countless demonic monsters, Lin Tian suddenly became strangely calm. While Qi Hao and He Feng were still fighting with everything they had to withstand the relentless waves of attacks, Lin Tian lifted his gaze toward the pitch-black sky above the abyssal ancient tomb. A bold idea flashed through his mind. If their strength was not enough to break the encirclement, then they would borrow the power of heaven and earth. Lin Tian slowly raised his hand, and the divine realm stela appeared before him once again. From within its space, two ancient weapons emerged, radiating a chilling glow. The moment they appeared, the sky above began to change. Dark clouds twisted together into massive spiraling vortices. Lightning flashed between the clouds like silver dragons roaring through the heavens. The heavenly tribulation of high-grade sacred artifacts had been triggered. Qi Hao looked up at the sky, his expression instantly changing. Have you lost your mind? The lightning tribulation will strike us too. But Lin Tian only smiled faintly. No. It will strike everyone. High in the air, Xuanye also sensed that something was wrong. For the first time, a trace of genuine coldness appeared in his eyes. Because when the lightning tribulation descended, it would not only destroy the demonic creatures. Thunder roared violently throughout the abyss. At the same moment, enormous bolts of heavenly lightning began forming in the sky, signaling that the entire tide of the battle was about to be completely overturned. The moment the heavenly lightning fully formed, the sky above the abyssal ancient tomb exploded with a thunderclap that shook the heavens. A massive pillar of lightning tore through the clouds and struck directly down onto the battlefield. Blinding white light swallowed everything. The demonic monsters that had been roaring moments before were instantly reduced to ashes under the heavenly thunder. Lightning spread across the ground, shattering layer after layer of demonic energy that had blanketed the abyss. Qi Hao and He Feng quickly retreated behind the divine realm stele, the only place strong enough to withstand the power of the heavenly tribulation. At the center of the battlefield, Lin Tian stood within the storm of lightning, his body almost completely engulfed by dazzling bolts of thunder. He wasn't merely enduring the tribulation, he was using it to temper his body and purge the demonic energy within him. High in the sky, Xuanye's expression finally changed. He realized that if he remained any longer, even he could be caught in the destructive force of the heavenly lightning. His cold gaze fell on Lin Tian one last time. This time, consider yourself lucky. With that, his figure dissolved into a stream of black mist and quickly vanished from the battlefield. But as the lightning tribulation gradually faded, Lin Tian knew very well that everything was far from over. Because somewhere across the continent, ancient seals were slowly beginning to break, and the war against the ancient supreme demon had only just begun. If you want to discover the secret of the 7 seals and Lin Tian's true identity, comment 1, and I'll continue the next part of the story.